The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
I don't know how to be excited, I guess.
This is him and I excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like role reversal. When we won the pole for the Daytona 500 in 2018, came across the start finish line, and Greg said whatever the lap time was. And he was all bummed out because he wanted to run faster than that because his goal was like a 90 and we ran like an O. And I was like, well, dang, where does that put us?
Oh, P1. Pole for the Daytona 500.
That's kind of probably just how we are a little bit. We're weirdos.
Welcome to episode 113 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Tuesday, July 2nd, 2019. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. 114. Thanks, James. Thanks for fixing that. See, I read off the prompter every time.
That's totally my bad.
You got me. Little Alex Bowman and Greg Ives in the post-race press conference at Chicagoland Speedway. They were pretty entertaining, despite the fact that the excitement level probably was a little lower than you'd expect for somebody with their first Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series win. But they were still pretty entertaining, joking around quite a bit. It was a nice long press conference and nice late press conference after the late race. It's a good time at Chicagoland.
You survived, man. I was worried about you.
I was worried about me, too, when the tower was shaking because of the wind. I'm telling you.
It looked pretty wicked
on
TV, and I'm like, man, Eric's in that somewhere.
It was. I was glad I was in the tower, I think, but when it started shaking, it kind of felt like if you've ever been on a boat and the boat's just lightly rocking, that's what it was like.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
See, I wouldn't do good there because I am a baby when it comes to height, so that's great.
You've been up in the. I'm already going off on tangent. You've been up in the tall grandstands at MIS, right? The new ones they built.
Yep, I've been in the press box there a couple of times.
No,
and,
I'm talking the stands that they have over in turn 4.
Oh yeah,
the super tall ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the aluminum grandstands like that. See, Michigan's main grandstand is concrete, and to me, every NASCAR grandstand was concrete because that's all I knew was Michigan. Well, Chicagoland's grandstands, the entire grandstand is like that turn 4 grandstand at Michigan. It's all the aluminum. So it's doesn't feel as sturdy as Michigan's grandstands, which feel like you're on concrete because you are. And so the grandstands are already, I mean, they're safe. They've put a ton of people in them, but the floor panels move a little bit when you walk, and it's a little unsettling. And then when the wind's blowing it, some people claim 30 miles an hour. Some people claim 60 miles an hour. The severe weather warning was for 80 miles an hour. However much it was blowing enough to destroy the NBC Peacock pit box.
Yeah.
And a couple other pit boxes on pit road. Remove the car cover from Bubba Wallace's car, which fortunately they'd wrapped all the openings anyway, so his car was still good. But it was windy enough, and it was moving the grandstand, so it was crazy.
Well, I'm glad you survived and made it back.
I'm glad I survived and made it back as well, James.
I couldn't do this on my own, so.
Right. All right. So we'll get back to the storm, I think. We'll get back to Chicagoland. Obviously, Alex Bowman gets his first Monster Energy Cup Series win. Another great race at Chicagoland. But before we get to that, I wanted to take the topic that I spent a good chunk of the day Saturday arguing with people on Twitter about. Because I think it's the absolute perfect do we care topic. So we're going to start with do we care tonight. For the first time in history, as far as we can tell, and that is by we, I say Nick Bromberg because he's the one who posted this on Twitter.
I trust Nick.
I trust Nick as well. I did not do the research, but if Nick is going to have something negative to say, he is going to have the facts to back it up. So,
right.
So according to Nick, for the first time in history, the pole speed for the Premier Cup Series was lower than the pole speed for both the Xfinity and Truck Series at the same track. So all 3 series were at Chicagoland this weekend. All 3 series qualified there. The Truck Series, the Xfinity Series was the fastest at 177.256 miles an hour. Truck Series second fastest, 176.632 miles an hour. And the Cup Series, 176.263 miles an hour. Not a big difference, but yes, the Premier Series was the slowest. So I already know the answer from a lot of the people on my Twitter feed that they do care, and this really bothers them. James, my question for you, do you care?
I do not care. Sorry, man. No, like you said, it's a very minuscule difference.
I'm
However,
sorry, these people do not
if
see 0.4 miles per hour
no,
difference.
no, it looks weird on the stat sheet, but if this is the package that we're going to be running this season, this is what you got to expect.
Right.
I think the bigger thing that it tells you is that the Cup cars very well might be easier to drive.
Maybe.
I mean, that's something that we've been arguing all season about.
Maybe, but it's also about momentum, and you have to be better at maintaining the momentum. So that might be tougher to do than.
Correct. Yep, it's a different racing series.
Yeah,
it's like comparing IRL and NASCAR Cup Series. It's the same type of thing.
It's not like that though, James. It's not at all like that. That is a ridiculous comparison. I was specifically told by somebody on Twitter before I blocked them that.
Oh, you hammered them with the block button.
No, actually, I did not block them. I was happy to have. I did get blocked from somebody else for disagreeing with them.
I can't believe Todd got that angry with you that he did that.
What's that?
I can't believe Todd was the one who finally ticked you off enough that you blocked him.
Yeah, exactly. I blocked Todd. I did block one person, but they were just trolling. It was I posted a picture of the sun arriving on Sunday and posted, "This is a great sight to see," and the person posts, "Empty grandstands for a NASCAR race. NASCAR's
there
dead."
it is. Wow,
So,
yeah, you got you were literally Bob Pockers for the day.
Yeah, so I blocked them. I don't even want to deal with that crap. He wasn't a NASCAR fan, obviously, so screw him. I don't need to have him on my account. But anyway, so I agree with you, James. We're not going to argue over this because I don't care either. And that was my point I was making on Twitter. And first of all, so many people are saying they went to Michigan. First of all, okay, listen. I, last year at Michigan, stood literally on the top of the wall in turn 4, leaning through a hole in the fence to take pictures of the cars going by. At that time, they were doing 218 miles an hour or whatever into the turn. This year, I leaned on that same fence, arm through the fence, shooting photos of the cars going through the turn, 10, 15 miles an hour slower? Mm-hmm. I couldn't tell the difference. My camera couldn't tell the difference. It's just as damn hard to focus on them as it is otherwise. Couldn't tell the difference. And so here's my argument to the people that say, they look so much slower, I just can't handle it, they're so slow. Do you notice that they're faster in the turns? Because they are.
They are faster in the turn.
You look at those cars in the center of the turn, they're going faster. These people, the only reason that these people notice this 5 to 10 miles an hour difference, the only reason they notice is because somebody told them it's there.
Yep, it's because the number says so.
Yep. That's it.
I will just say, though, the optics of it, as far as seeing those numbers, that is kind of weird. It's weird.
It's weird. And honestly, I think this is a transition. This is a new package for the Cup Series. I have a feeling, first of all, they're going to make adjustments to this package for the Gen 7 car. It will change some of this. And I'm telling you, if they're running a 550 horsepower motor in the Cup Series, and they're doing that to bring manufacturers in, they're not going to continue to run a higher horsepower motor in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah.
That will change too, guys. It's all changing. The difference is that the Cup Series has more money to change it now. Notice that we have not, other than the aeroducts that they tried in the Xfinity Series, we still haven't changed the package on the restrictor plates where they can't push. We still have a stupid rule that they're not allowed to push because they don't want to make the Xfinity Series spend the money. The only time the Xfinity Series is going to get changed is when they go to the next generation car. That's it.
Yep, and it's a money saving thing. Yep. Just like you said, it wouldn't be hard for JR Motorsports to make the switch, but for all those other Xfinity teams, that are out there that aren't affiliated with the Cup teams, it's tough. It's really hard.
And the last thing I'll say on this is for all of those people that are like, these cars are going too slow. I can't watch this sport anymore because these cars are too slow. Did you watch the freaking race on Sunday? My God, that was a great race. All the way through again. This track that we were concerned might be ruined because it's an old track, worn out track, and a hot track, that this aero package wasn't going to work. It worked, guys. Get over it. The racing is good. I'm sorry it's not what you like. We ran the ARCA cars at Michigan 3 weeks ago. and we had 2 cars on the lead lap. Is that what you guys want back? Because we can do that. I don't want that. I want racing, and we had a race on Sunday where everybody's been bitching all season that you can't pass the leader. Well, we had a race where somebody passed the leader, and that guy got back by in the closing laps to win that race.
Yeah.
This, again, it hasn't happened every week. Yes, we've had boring races, but I don't care if you make these things slot cars and make them race 7 wide all the way around the track every lap. You're going to have boring races. We had this package proved itself this weekend. I am done evaluating the package. Period. This is what we got. I think it's proven that in most instances it's been at least equal, if not better than what we've seen before. Yes, there's fewer crashes. I don't know. We kind of started to solve that a little bit this weekend by having tires that would fail.
Yeah, the track surface really helps, I think, too.
Yeah,
when you have a abrasive surface like Chicago has.
And maybe we hose down the track or drop 6 inches of water in an hour time span to wash the rubber off before the race, and maybe we don't have a competition caution that we don't really need.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm done ranting on that, James.
Are we done using the P word on the podcast for a while?
We're gonna have to bring it up because everybody's talking about it still, and everybody's gonna continue to ask the question. I think this weekend proved that it works.
You know what's funny is this was a great race and probably one of the better races with the new rules package.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't as good as last year, but that's just because last year was just this crazy outlier. But it was still a great race. I think it was 89% on Jeff Gluck's poll, so nice. That's very good.
When I know there were conspiracy theorists on Reddit that it was hanging at 88% on there for a while.
Nice.
So
that would have been good.
But I swear somebody's knocking at my door. I might have to pause the podcast, but I'm not doing it yet. Anyway, what was I going to say? They during the rain delay, they have NBC on in the media center in the press box, and they showed the last 20 laps or whatever of last year's race, and how many times I've seen the ending of that race, and I still love it.
Yeah, it's out of
so
control.
Good. And this was a really good race this weekend, and likely would be the best race ever at Chicagoland if there just wasn't such a spectacular race last year.
Pretty sure it was our race of the year in our end of the year podcast.
Yeah, I think we both agreed on it.
Yeah, I think we both agreed. We picked our 5 favorite races of the year, and that one was both of ours.
Yeah,
so
it was
and
great.
this one, this one's going to be up there. I think at the end of the year too. That was a good show. That Larson battle. And we're going to probably talk about it here in a minute, but
we'll talk about it right now.
Bowman, that was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. That was good to see those guys going at 2 young guys.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have Kyle Busch and Martin Truex up there like we have every single week. It was 2 guys who both needed that first win of the season. It was awesome.
Yep. Yeah, it was great. And then just overall, I think at this point this is the best race we've had so far this season. We've had some snoozers, we've had some good ones, but I think this one ranks the highest, and I'm a little partial. I was there. So that helps, but I think it was a really good one. So, as we said, Alex Bowman gets his first win. I outduels Kyle Larson for his first career win. What was it, 9 to go or something?
Yeah, they were dicing back and forth. Yep.
Yeah, 260. Kyle Larson took the lead at lap 260, led 260, 261. Alex Bowman was able to pass him back. Larson said he was surprised that he was able to get back by him, but not entirely. And, Larson was pretty grateful after the race that he had, got a second place finish and had a good run, but obviously a little bummed to be on the losing end of the excitement at Chicagoland for the second year in a row.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, he got a better finish this year. He didn't spin the thing out. So
right.
I wondered as it was happening, as Bowman came battling back, how much of it was Hendrick Motorsports versus what Chip Ganassi can give Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
That always creeps into my head with a Larson finish somehow, some way.
Right.
Like, I always feel like he's outperforming what he's driving, and then you've got Alex Bowman, and Hendrick seems to have figured some stuff out because the whole team was on it this weekend. So this is something I always think about. But either way, mano a mano, Alex Bowman got one. Fantastic.
Yeah, and I lost my train of thought again. I'm distracted.
we have so much to talk about on this podcast, especially because you were down there and have so much good stuff. It's okay. We're bursting at the seams this week.
This could be a long podcast. I got distracted because I have Twitter up here, and Orange Cone just posted storm clouds, which I saw a lot of this weekend. So it's a slight distraction. Yeah, I mean, it was good. So while I try to think of what I was going to say, I'm going to throw to the press conference after the race. Alex Bowman gets himself locked in the playoffs. I got to ask him and crew chief Greg Ives about that in the post race. Here you go. Eric with the superspeedway.com again. Actually, to build off that for both of you guys, you're now in the playoffs. How does this change your strategy going forward?
Well, I think for me, I can stop watching the points race every week and worrying about trying to be in. Obviously, we're pretty strong in points, but we weren't locked in by any means. So doing that, I feel like we can just be more aggressive, take more chances. I feel like I can be more aggressive on green flag pit stops and just little things like that sometimes if you overstep, it completely ruins your day and costs you a ton of points. We don't have to worry as much about, and I can just work on getting 10/10ths out of it, so when the playoffs come, I know how hard I can push or can't push.
Yeah, for me, it's just continue on doing what we've been doing, putting our best car on the racetrack, run one, and that's usually what you put your most time into. So, keep on doing that and executing the races the best possible way, and allowing these guys to be under the pressure that the playoffs give you. We have a lot of playoff points that we need to catch up on. This definitely helps, but going into a playoff without not a lot of playoff points is not the best place to be. So focused on trying to do that and obviously just being consistent, executing, and growing as a team.
So I remember what I was going to say. I just forgot it again. Oh, my God, this is awful. Oh, so the only thing I was thinking when Larson, first of all, when Larson caught Bowman, I'm like, as soon as he passes him, it's like, this thing's over. This is Kansas all over again. Bowman gets past in the late stages. The guy is going to finish second again and able to squeak it out. And I mean, he battled back hard. It was a good battle, good finish for him. So he said after the race, he's tired of finishing second. So
yep,
good on him.
The overworked Twitter thing that I saw over I guess on Monday really was now he's finished in every position on the track.
Yeah.
I think is he the only driver who's done that? I don't know.
We talked about it. That first of all, you can't do 42nd, 43rd, or 41st, 42nd, 43rd anymore because we don't have 43 cars. But also, most guys either run up front or run in the back. You don't have this. I mean, Alex has had a career where he's been a field filler, and now he's a front runner. So I don't think many people have the opportunity to do what he's done and be able to run where he's running. And, that was a question that I had, James, is it's interesting to look at Bowman's path. And he talked about it in the press conference, and I didn't pull that audio, but that, he was basically a field filler. He went from racing sprint cars to, filling the field in the Cup Series to filling in for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and then having one of the most iconic rides in NASCAR, and then getting this win this weekend, which he says that's all he's ever wanted his entire life, is to win in the Cup Series. So my question is, how many Alex Bowmans are out there?
I think this is the new way of climbing the ladder for the Cup Series.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Ross Chastain's doing.
Ross Chastain, another good example is Matt DiBenedetto.
Yeah.
He's slowly been climbing the ladder, and some guys, Matt DiBenedetto this may be the last step for him. He may not get another step, but somebody like Alex Bowman gets in the right situation, gets a Hendrick ride that is, there's only 4 of them. So he's definitely climbed the ladder all the way to the top now. He's there. He's an established Cup guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are many. I don't know if there are many guys out there. This might just be the new way of doing things.
Yeah, it could be. But I mean, you've got guys in the field right now that could very well be in this category. You've got the Corey LaJoyes, the Jeffrey Earnhardts. I mean, Earnhardt has proven when he's gotten in one of the KBM car or the Joe Gibbs cars in the Xfinity Series, like he can run up front.
Yep.
Ross Chastain's a great example. He's doing it in a still semi-underfunded team in the Truck Series, and I mean he didn't run well at Chicago, but he's got 3 wins on the season depending on how you look at it. And I mean, so there's potential that there's guys like this that if you were to take one of these back markers and stick them in a top ride, that maybe they could do it.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
we know that all these guys are talented. We like to make comments about some of the back drivers and stuff, but I mean, even Danica Patrick had some talent.
Yeah, and Alex Bowman, this isn't.
You let me go through without even a jab. I'm disappointed in you.
I'm trying to ignore that comment. From Alex Bowman though, this isn't an underdog winning a race story anymore. He's established. Like this has been coming for this dude. He could have won back in 2016 easily at Phoenix. Back when he was subbing for Dale Jr. and Dale was coming back from his injuries, and it's just Alex we've seen it. We talked about it on the podcast. He's building momentum. Those 4 straight second place finishes just sealed the deal. And his there's another teammate of his that I think is a few steps behind in the process, but we're starting to see it from him too. When William Byron eventually wins a race, we're not going to be surprised, and it's not going to be he's not an underdog. These guys are good.
That's the thing. I mean, they're
top level.
Was anybody surprised this weekend that Alex Bowman won a race? I don't think so.
No.
I mean, this isn't one of those first time wins where somebody, sneaks in and gets a win and it's like, oh my gosh, they got to win. Will they ever win again? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that Bowman's going to win some more races. I wouldn't be surprised to see him click off a couple more this season and be a contender for the championship. I don't expect him to be in the final 4, but
yeah,
I expect him to make a run and maybe advance a couple rounds in the playoffs. Yep. He's a great driver. Like you said, he's got the history. He's been there. He's worked up to it. There was no fluke in this win. He was a top car all day, a top 10 car at least all day, and was able to pass one that we've said on this show, and a lot of people have said across the country that is arguably one of the better drivers on the track, and battled past him, back past him to win the race. So,
yep, and I took a couple of shots at Bowman early on, and I'll eat a little bit of crow on that. I would say though, is there a better evaluator of talent than Dale Jr.? I mean, he puts good drivers in really good stuff.
I know. I was thinking about that. There's so much.
Kyle's been really good at it too.
Well, that's the thing. We talk so much about Kyle being able to do it in the truck series, but Junior has definitely been able to cultivate some talent. I mean, even if you look at the other drivers, I mean, Justin Allgaier is a great driver. You've seen guys get second chances there. Heck, Elliott Sadler, who everybody else had kicked to the curb, they have an opportunity there. Obviously, Elliott Sadler brought One Main Financial with him too, and that helped quite a bit. But I mean, Michael Annett, look at how long they've been willing to invest in Michael Annett.
And he's a winner now. Eric Almirola is a forgotten JR Motorsports reclamation project.
Yeah,
Eric Almirola had to go back to JR Motorsports, and now he's a considerable top 15 guy every week.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. Speaking of Alex Bowman and in the same vein, I guess, Hendrick Motorsports, great weekend for them. Chevrolet had a great weekend at Chicagoland. It was really interesting at the early points of the race because we were talking about guys up front that we don't talk about up front. Jimmy Johnson led 10 laps in the first chunk of the race. Jimmy Johnson led for more than 3.5 hours. I mean, It was on pit road during a rain delay, but he still was the leader.
Well, we're used to that. It's just been a while.
But Jimmy was top 10 all day, top 5 a lot of the day, came home with a 4th place finish. And since he did so well and was so happy after the race, I got a chance to ask him about that. Jimmy, how do you take a performance like today and build on that for the rest of the season?
Take a deep breath, enjoy it, celebrate it some, and then Monday we get back to work and try to get better. So it gives us a nice direction, helps us build confidence in the areas that we've been working, and hopefully we can continue to build on this.
So, I mean, I think, last year it was easy to say you'd be surprised Jimmy's not going to win. And then, of course, Jimmy was struggling. And then we kind of, is he going to win? I would be pretty surprised if we get to the playoffs and certainly through the end of the season without Jimmy Johnson in victory lane again.
Yeah. That comment I love that you got that on audio because reading it on paper is one thing, but hearing how he delivered that response to you, you could sense the hunger that is. He's like, yeah, this is great, but this isn't what this is. I'm Jimmy freaking Johnson, dude.
Right.
I'm gonna go out there and get a win. You could just feel like you could feel that burning fire. Like he can sense it now. He's getting close.
It was very different talking to him at Michigan, before practices and everything when he was still struggling.
He's on the job. Yeah, on the job.
And talking to him after the race, you can see the difference. And that's Jimmy needs the confidence. That team needs the confidence. And that second place finish is going to give him a lot of confidence. The fact that Bowman won is going to give him confidence. The fact that Chase Elliott's won this season. The fact that all 4 Hendrick cars ran really well in this race. We're going to Kentucky in 2 weeks, which is a very different track because it's a new pave. But with this aero package is probably going to be a lot more similar than it's been. Mm-hmm. And if SMI decides to put some traction compound or something down in the corners, which God hope they do, could widen the groove out there. And you're looking at another, chance that those Hendrick cars run well. So,
yeah, I got to keep an eye on them. I was thinking about this too. Now you've got 2 Hendrick Motorsports drivers with wins. They're all 12th in points or above. And Stuart Haas is nowhere to be found other than Kevin Harvick.
It's ridiculous.
Which is shocking coming off of what we've seen the last couple seasons.
Well, and we'll get into winners and losers right now. I mean, I think Harvick's going to probably rank right there at the top of the list of the losers on the day. I mean, Harvick was there. He was the guy.
Yeah, led a lot. Led a lot.
Harvick was going to be the Joey Logano, where everybody is this package is great, this race is great, but Harvick's going to run out front and stink it up, and he did for 132 laps. And then pushed a little too hard and got in the wall, took the blame for it before he hit turn 3. It happened in turns 1 and 2. And hit the wall and just never recovered. 14th place finish for Kevin Harvick.
Yep, that's a bummer for him. Got the stage win, which is fine. He's got enough points. He doesn't have to worry about making it on points. But
yeah, I mean he left the weekend with 37 points, whereas Alex Bowman only took home 49 comparatively. So
yeah,
Harvick still had a good points day, but I'm sure he wasn't happy with it.
Right, scored more points than third place Logano, 34. So that's just kind of giving you a little bit of reference on how well he did early in the race. But yeah, he's got to be frustrated, man. It's a weird year for Kevin. I don't know. He's been very quiet.
Yeah.
And not so much, he hasn't had the outbursts, and I'm kind of waiting for that to happen.
He was pretty entertaining after Michigan.
Well, yeah.
Speaking of outbursts, I want to tell you my 2 favorite points in the day this weekend, and I cannot repeat them on the podcast. Just imagine a bleep, and that's it. Were the Bush brothers on the radio because they were fun.
Oh, Kurt had a meltdown. Yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
Yep. Kurt melted down at one point, and Kyle, as soon as he hit the wall, was melting down, and they did play that audio on the TV. It was good stuff. Radioactive this week should be good. I will hope that they have both of those guys because they were fun to listen to. Every time something bad happened to Kyle, I just flipped over to his radio to hear what he was going to have to say. Most of the time he was quiet, but
Kurt's really good for a really nice outburst. One every 15 races or so, he really lets it out. And that was.
Oh yeah, he was asking about the setup. Or what adjustments they made, and they told him what adjustments they made, and it was basically exactly backwards from what he wanted.
Yeah, and the tires too. Didn't he have a tire?
Oh yeah.
Lost it about the tires.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Kurt.
Well, when they told him what the setup was, and he says, "So you did this, and then the car was doing this, so then you did this, which makes it worse." And the crew chief comes back and goes, he says, "Am I saying that right?" The crew chief comes back and says, "Yep," and he goes, effing fantastic. His answer. It's like, oh boy, gotta love it.
Kurt needs to stick around a little longer. Don't retire yet, man.
No, man, I love Kurt. And the funniest thing is he's the happiest guy and friendliest guy off the track now. I mean, he was super chatty on before qualifying, and he's great to interview after or beforehand. I don't know afterwards, depending on where he ends up. But
that's Bob Pockrass how he is afterward.
Yeah, well, I see. I mean,
years ago, though,
when Bob Pockrass asked Kyle Busch a question, it's like Bob might as well just take a chalkboard and just run his fingernails down it, because Kyle just tenses right up and he's ready. The first question Kyle got in the press conference on Saturday was asking about Eric Jones, and has he talked to Eric Jones about his contract situation or given him any advice? And Kyle's answer was, "So I'm being asked to give Eric Jones advice through the media?" It's like, no, that's not what he's asking you. But anyway.
I'd be scared to ask Kyle questions.
I've pretty much, I'm not too scared of asking people. I've avoided Kyle for the most part. If I had a good question to ask Kyle, I would ask him, but I haven't really had anything good to ask him. I did ask him a question at Chicago last year, I think, after he won, but
yeah, save that for somebody else to take the beating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the most part, he's been pretty good, but you never know with Kyle.
Yeah, he turns you into a court jester in the press room.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep, and everybody enjoys it because it's not them.
Exactly. Until
you referenced Joey Logano. He's one that I want to mention as a winner on the day for sure. Joey Logano comes home with a third place finish, and this finish that Joey Logano had in this race, this is a championship performance right here. He qualified 19th on the day. He didn't run really well throughout the race. Was able to work his way up toward the front in the end. He battled with Kyle Larson, who ended up almost winning the race, and then he said he got tight and couldn't hang on anymore. But I mean, that's a performance you don't see get turned around like that. Those are those types of performances that win you championships right there.
Well, that's the reason why he is our defending champion.
Exactly.
He's unlocked that next level of driving that you need to become a champion. He's in that class.
I mean, Joey didn't earn any stage points on the day. That's where he was running.
Nowhere to be found in the stages, but he ended up with the top 5 finish.
Yeah. And I mean, his teammate not much better. Brad Keselowski got 2 points in stage 1, and that's it. But he was able to get a top 5 finish on the day.
Yeah, Blaney was 6, so the Penske contingent was, and Blaney was not good either. It was like
Blaney
they figured
had
something out.
Tire issues. Because
yeah, he did.
He was going to be a guy. He was a lot of people's pick to win that race. He was going to run better than that, but yeah, he had tire issues. We mentioned that we got the rain after 10 laps, and guys, it was a torrential downpour. It was frightening.
A monsoon.
And so when the track dried, they had washed most of the rubber off, and toward the end of the first stage, we saw tire issues with a lot of guys. Kyle Busch had trouble. Ryan Blaney had trouble. I'm trying to think who else. There were a bunch of them that had trouble. Clint Boyer, pretty much.
Boyer ended up 37th. Yep.
About the only thing Boyer could have done is hit the pace car. I mean, he just had a hellacious day at Chicago, which is the second year in a row, by the way, because this was the race last year that he sped fulfilling the penalty, and then didn't stop in his box when it was supposed to be a stop and go, and drove through and then had to serve the penalty again. So Chicago hasn't been kind to Clint Boyer.
Yeah, he was junk for. Yeah, that was too bad for Clint. Such a happy guy.
William Byron had a good run going. He led 9 laps. He was running really well up front and finished 8th, so still a good run for him. Austin Dillon got the pole and then comes home with a 10th place finish. Chase Elliott was one of the poor finishing Hendrick cars with an 11th place finish.
Yeah. How about shout out to Michael McDowell? He finished 3rd in stage 1.
Yeah.
And a top 20. That's not a bad day for the 34 car.
Yeah, definitely. Ty Dillon had mechanical issues. His car looked decent, but then struggled. He ends up 35th. We mentioned Clint Boyer, 37th. Let's see, anybody else really worth picking out here?
That's about it.
Bubba Wallace had issues as well. Kyle Busch, I mean, honestly, Kyle had a terrible, terrible day and still ends up, where did he end up? Where is he?
He ended up 22nd.
22nd.
Yeah,
but just
no good, very bad day.
God-awful day for Kyle. I mean, in the end of the race, he's breathing tire smoke because they had rubber fire in the car. I mean, just awful for Kyle.
His second race of the season, not in the top 10.
Yep.
That's how bad of a day he had.
Yep, pretty rough.
He's always in the top 10.
Yeah. So, anybody else, James? Am I missing anybody?
Oh, I think we covered it. Covered the field there. That's good.
Okay. One thing that you didn't have in the show notes, but I added because you wanted to mention it.
I did. I texted you about it. Good call. Good catch.
Yep. Cole Custer gets the win in the Xfinity Series. That's his 4th win of the season, I believe, in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah,
this
4th
year.
win. Yep.
You basically texted me and said Cole Custer is going to be in the Cup Series
next season.
Yeah. So, like, who's scared? And I would have to say that.
It's Suarez, right? I think it's Suarez.
I kind of feel like if you're wearing... I kind of feel like there's a good chance that Cole Custer might, despite the fact that he's too young to be a fan, he might be an AJ Foyt fan.
I think Clint Boyer's getting the boot. Hey.
I don't know. Clint's got to be on the hot seat, man. He's been struggling. He's frustrated. Doesn't he seem like a guy who's frustrated and trying to keep his job?
Yeah. Well, Clint's and he's older. He's more expensive.
Yeah.
He's definitely pulling a bigger salary from Stewart Haas Racing than Eric Almirola.
Yeah.
One of those two guys is getting the boot because their contracts are up, and Cole Custer has been really good, man. He's been really good.
I will throw another wrinkle in here, and I don't remember who said it on Twitter, but it was a reputable source. And there is a rumor, hasn't been talked about much, but again, it was mentioned on Twitter, that NASCAR is discussing allowing 5 teams.
That would be cool.
Now, if that happens, who knows? Because most of these teams are still looking for sponsorship anyway. But you've got 3 teams right now with 4 cars on them.
Well, that would fix the Joe Gibbs problem.
It would fix the Joe Gibbs problem, and it would fix
a big problem.
It would fix Stuart Haas's problem. So yeah, and heck, it might even fix Hendrick's problem if they wanted to steal someone like Kyle Larson away.
Yeah.
So, Larson was getting questioned this weekend about Chip Ganassi and about his contract, and Larson's got another year on his contract, so
yeah,
he's not going anywhere next year.
He wants to run Indy. I just don't see him leaving Chip just yet.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think he's going to stay with Chip until Chip gives him a boot, and I don't think Chip's going to give him the boot.
No, Chip has no reason to give him the boot.
No, not in the least.
So. Yeah, and Larson just wants to drive for a few more years into his 40s or into his late 30s, and then he'll go race sprint cars.
Yep.
So he might just be happy doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
He'll try to get one championship at some point, and that might be it.
Well, he won the midget race in Chicagoland.
Yeah, he did.
Street, so
he raced 3 different cars last weekend.
It's crazy.
Yeah, he was in the sprint car too. Jeez.
Yep. A couple of the guys bailed on the race at Route 66 Speedway because of the heat from the Xfinity race. I think Tyler Reddick, was one of them, and I think there was another one that was supposed to race and they didn't.
I think Christopher Bell was on the list.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
And but Larson did it and won.
So, yeah, and finished second in the Cup race.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was fine.
So let's, James, you got it here on the notes to talk a little bit about everything this weekend. One thing, first of all, let me say this, and at the risk of insulting our friends at Michigan International Speedway, don't get me wrong, Michigan International Speedway fan amenities are excellent. The people there are great. The track is great. Don't not go to Michigan. But I have a new favorite track on the schedule, and it is Chicagoland. Because not only is the racing great, the track is great. From a fan's perspective, this place is awesome. I know I mentioned it last year. The backstretch is, first of all, it's curved. It's not straight. You can't tell from the stands. It looks straight. But it allows you to see it better. And then the infield, or the backstretch, is actually above the infield. So you can see everything from just about any seat in that place. It's designed perfectly. It's a 1.5 mile track. When you look at it, it looks like it's a mile. It does not look like a 1.5 mile track. We've seen the racing that it puts on. The asphalt's perfect right now. Hopefully they don't pave it anytime soon, although there's talks. I can't find anything bad to say about Chicagoland. Not only that, but this weekend, Thursday night, they had the ARCA Series. They had the Truck Series Friday. They had the Xfinity Series Saturday. They had the Cup Series Sunday. Across the street, they had the All-Star Circuit of Champions Sprint Cars Tony Stewart Series at the dirt track. They also ran the USAC Midgets at the dirt track and whatever else they put on over there. It's just excellent. And
yeah, that was like a World Series of racing.
Yeah, not only that, they had pit bike championships. They had Ryan Villapoto there. Jeremy McGrath was there. All these guys were there. Jimmy Johnson went out there to watch. Greg Ives, the winning crew chief for the race, won a pit bike race on Saturday night. They had so much stuff going on. And I tell you guys, go to this place. It's got lights.
I didn't know Jeremy McGrath was out there.
Yeah.
That piques my interest as a kid of the 90s.
I mean, it's just, I'm telling you, the crazy thing is, okay, so everybody keeps saying, man, if we just had better races, guys, we could get people in the stands. We get people watch on TV. Before the rain came Sunday, the stands were half full. Full. I could guarantee you they were half full and no more. After the rains, they were half of that. We lost half the people because of the weather. So I'm sorry I don't buy that, for one. because there's the only thing that Chicago didn't have going for it this weekend was the same problem as last year. The race started, it was 92 degrees and it was humid as crap. But it was 72 degrees and freezing because the wind was right at your face for the race once it restarted. So anyway, I highly encourage people, if you get a chance to go to Chicagoland Speedway, that place is great. Give it some support. I hate to see, I mean, I don't think they're in danger of losing a race, but I'd hate to see them lose their only race because people aren't going to it, because the place is freaking awesome. It is everything you guys are asking for in a racetrack. It's a big track. They go fast, but it's small enough to where it's comfortable to watch. You don't have to walk a long ways, and it's great racing. So go to Chicagoland. Check it out.
There you go.
There you go. Don't really have much to say about the races. All the races were good this weekend. Even the ARCA race was pretty good. Ty Majeski ran away with the race, so the front wasn't very exciting, but the battle for second place was excellent all Thursday night. We did start the race about an hour and a half late because of lightning. We also had a lightning delay during practice on Friday, but it didn't affect the Truck Series start. We started that on time. Truck race was good as always. Brett Moffitt gets the win and was excited to actually get to celebrate in Victory Lane this week instead of like Iowa, where he celebrated 30 minutes after the race. And the Xfinity Series, obviously Cole Custer pretty much dominated that one, but still good race for the Xfinity Series as well. So there you go.
And there it is.
Let's talk some news. We're already going long. I figured it was going to be a long podcast. So sorry, guys.
It's good. Yeah.
Let's see. James, you brought up, and I actually got to discuss this yesterday. On my way home, I got a text from the radio station down in Toledo and got to pop on there again to talk about Chicagoland. And they asked me about why did NASCAR decide to start the race? They knew the weather was coming. They knew we weren't going to get many laps, and everybody was talking. We were probably going to get 10 laps, and it was going to rain. So I guess I want to hear your opinion on it, James, first. I already have mine. What do you think? Should NASCAR held off? You think they did the right thing? What do you think?
Why did they start they should have held off. Why did they start the race knowing what was coming?
So here's the deal. NASCAR, first of all, has a policy to start on time. That is their goal. If they can start the race on time, they start the race on time. I know there's a lot of people that say, well, NASCAR always says that they won't start a race unless they think they can get the whole thing in. That's true once the race is delayed. But if it's not delayed, the goal is to start on time, and they start on time. A lot of that's because of the TV network, etc. Now, let me give you the argument from being at Chicagoland. On Thursday night, if you'd have looked at the radar 15, 20 minutes before the ARCA race started, you knew we were not racing. It was going to pour. We weren't even going to race that night. We were going to race the next day. There's a huge storm coming in. We ended up with a lightning delay, like I said, about an hour because of lightning, but it never rained a drop on Thursday night. The storm completely dissipated and disappeared. We had similar storms come through on Saturday or on Friday, same thing. They just went away. If NASCAR would have held off to start the race later because they knew the system was coming in and then the system disappeared, they'd have looked really stupid. So they did what they should do. They started the race. Soon as there was a lightning strike within 10 miles of the track, they stopped the race, pulled them on pit road. They cleared the grandstands. The grandstands were clear when the wind and rain picked up. Yes, people were underneath the stands, but they would have been anyway if they would have held off at the start. I do think that NASCAR needs to rethink their policy of having to have 24 hours notice in advance to move the race up an hour. They moved it up 15 minutes, and that wasn't enough, obviously. Actually, it was enough to probably get us 10 laps. But I think they did the right thing. I think they need to start there and try and get it in. You never know. And if it doesn't rain, then you look smart. If it does rain, then at least you tried. That's my opinion.
As long as safety's not an issue. Like, that's
right.
My biggest concern with
I did not see a lightning flash. They stopped the race before I saw any lightning.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I'm glad that people were able to get to safe places. We've had incidents in the past where fans were injured or killed because of weather. They
immediately put up on the screens and had people ushering people out of the grandstands. It was as soon as that race stopped, people were swarming the exits, and rightfully so. So
good, yeah, and that's the biggest concern. Like, so what if you look a little foolish sometimes, as long as the fans are safe. And in this case, they got it in. That's fine. But always err on the side of caution with the weather, because these tracks, man, these NASCAR tracks are all in the middle of nowhere, and there's not a lot of places for people to go.
I don't know what they did in the infield because I obviously wasn't down there, but I noticed that there wasn't a person in the infield, and they have a big fan zone there, and it's not like Michigan where there's a tunnel right underneath the front stretch to get to the fan zone. You have to go way around. So the people in the fan zone had to go somewhere, and it looked like they were using the Xfinity garages. They had the Xfinity garages closed, and there were people in there. So I believe that they ushered even the fan zone people into the Xfinity garages, which were empty at that point, to get them out of. I mean, it looked like a ghost town. There was nobody, and they wouldn't even let teams on pit road. When the car cover blew off Bubba Wallace's car, they didn't let people out there. NASCAR, even when they were staging vehicles to start working the track, all they would let is people in vehicles. They were not letting people go out and manually pick up debris, anything, as long as there was a lightning threat. I think they were overly cautious, but I think it was good that they were. Right. I think they learned their lesson at Pocono a few years ago. And
yeah, that was the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, always overly cautious. I'm good with that.
Yep.
I'm always good with that.
Yep. I was happy. I thought they handled it well, and I'm sure it didn't translate on TV because it's obviously a lot different when you're watching on TV. But I think it was the right choice. So.
Yep.
James, take the next one.
Yeah, so we got the Dale Jr. download. I just wanted to make a quick shout out to it. Haley Deegan's on, and it's really good. And she's super entertaining.
I haven't listened to Haley yet. I listened to the first part of the podcast this morning, but didn't get to Haley's
and it was probably on TV tonight. I think they air it on Tuesdays, if I'm not mistaken, on NBC. Or NBC Sports Network. So anyway, Haley's, I mean, she's a good kid, man. Yeah. She's a really good driver.
Yep.
So I just thought it was really cool. Dale Jr.'s got a lot of good guests on his podcast, and it's a nice bump for Haley Deegan's career to be able to be on things like the Dale Jr. download. It's a big deal.
Let me give you guys another tip related to Haley Deegan in a way. If you're not familiar with Fans Choice TV, do a search for Fans Choice TV. I believe they air all of the K&N Series races live on there.
Yeah.
You have to deal with the track announcer, which is pretty annoying. I wanted to punch him this weekend. But I watched the K&N race, and there's not only that, they have races from Bowman Gray. They've got all kinds of races on there, and from what I can tell, it's all free. I'm sure they probably have some pay-per-view stuff too, but if you like flat track, they got AMA flat track on there. I've known about it from that, but NASCAR has the partnership with them, or NASCAR owns it, I believe, and they've been doing the K&N Series races on there. So if you want to see the K&N Series, you don't want to wait for them on NBCSN, you can watch them live on Fans Choice TV.
There you go. That's awesome.
Yep. James, I'll take the next one, or I'll start it at least. I know you added it here, but this was a big talk this weekend. Steve Phelps says not to expect massive wholesale schedule changes for 2021. I think we kind of already predicted this, didn't we?
Yeah, I think they made their big changes in for 2020, and they're gonna do what NASCAR typically does, and they're gonna sit on it for a little while.
The thing is
there's not much they can do now, really.
Even if NASCAR owns the tracks, there's so much more to it than just, well, we're just going to move this date. I mean, there's a lot of people's livelihoods that are affected by these changes, and you're going to get resistance from it. And so you can't just make sweeping changes as much as we'd love to see them do it. I do hope we get some additions, a couple additions, and maybe a couple double headers to make room for those additions, or however they want to do it. But I have not had real high expectations for 2021 since they made the big changes for next year.
Yeah.
The other thing, I was talking to one of the guys who works in the press box at Michigan when we had the rain delay, and they pushed the race till Monday. It's something that a lot of people don't think about, and I think we've talked about it on the podcast before. The reason that rain delays suck, for one, but also the reason that you can't, that these weeknight races that everybody wants that sound like a great idea, that they don't necessarily work. Most of your track employees are volunteer, or they work that weekend and that's it. This is their vacation. They take a vacation, go to the track, work the concessions, work security, whatever. To do that in the middle of the week is almost impossible. NFL has midweek games. MLB has midweek games. That's these guys' jobs to work in those concessions. These are stadiums that are run all the time that these people work at.
Yeah, it's different infrastructure.
Yeah, you don't have that. Every hot dog you buy at Michigan International Speedway is sold by somebody who doesn't sell hot dogs for a living,
Right.
They're there that weekend to work at that race. When Monday rolled around and we ran the race on Monday, a lot of those people weren't there. There wasn't much security because there wasn't anybody to do that job. Everybody had to go back to work. And so trying to do a weeknight race isn't as easy as it seems either. Again, it's really easy to do at, Ford Field because those people work at Ford Field and that's what they do.
Yeah.
And so
it would take a special track to pull it off.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So I mean,
And we just don't know that. We don't know what that looks like. so.
Eldora does it for the Truck Series. Of course, they're on Thursday night this year instead of Wednesday night. But even that, if you go to Eldora is a local track. It's not one of these big NASCAR tracks. They've got one concession stand. Well, two concession stands, I guess. You know, but they've got minimal security.
And trailers and whatnot. People bring those things in.
Right.
But yeah,
it's not the staff that you see at a normal NASCAR race.
Right.
So it's tough. It's in there, Eldora, I think they've talked before, they've got 3 full-time employees, period, at the track. That's it.
Yep. Roger Slack and a couple other guys.
Yep.
Tony Stewart probably on the payroll somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or he's doling out the payroll.
Right.
I'd like to see. I'm curious to see the doubleheaders next year. That's the one thing I hope we see maybe more of. You know, I would like to see that, and we're going to see next year too with that big break in the summer. What that's going to do.
Yeah,
it's going to be a real thing. So
stupid.
Something that I know. Stupid. I don't want to get you going, but
I hate it.
I know.
All right, let's you take the next one, James, because I did not even look at this article. So
yeah, that's cool. No, so Forbes released today, I believe, or yesterday, the highest paid drivers for NASCAR in 2019. Eric, you probably looked by now. I was gonna say, can you guess who number 1 is?
I'm not surprised. Okay, let me guess who number 2 is because I know who number 1 is.
Okay.
Number 2 is Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch is number 2. Number 1, Jimmy Johnson, old 7-time.
You know how I knew Kyle Busch was number 2?
How's that?
Because he's had a long-term contract. I know he's locked into one of those legacy contracts.
He is locked, and
so I knew him or Denny Hamlin. One of those guys were going to be
Denny Hamlin is 3. Yeah, there you go. You're on a roll. You want to go for number 4? You're looking at it.
No, I'm not. I swear to God. It's got to be probably Brad Keselowski or Joey Logano.
You missed one. Kevin Harvick's in there.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Harvick. I was going to mention Harvick earlier, but I went with Kyle. So.
Yeah. So we don't have to go through the whole list on what every driver makes, but it's interesting. Jimmy Johnson's the only driver in NASCAR who has a salary of over $10 million. Nobody else is over $10 million.
Dang.
So Jimmy Johnson's earnings were just north of 17 million, 17 and a half. 10 years ago, when we were in the middle of the big recession, that is just about half of what Dale Jr. was earning. That's how far down NASCAR earnings have come. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, we got the link in the show notes. You can go and dive in. It's a good article.
Man, I'm pretty good at this, aren't I?
Yeah, you did good.
I swear to God, I wasn't looking at him.
No, you're right. It's all legacy guys. Until you get to number 7, and then
really
it's the young guns of Chase Elliott. But Chase Elliott, he's under 10 million in total earnings. Kyle Larson, also 9 million. He's there, and Martin Truex Jr. For all the winning and stuff he's done, he's number 9. He's 8.2 million. He's way behind.
That doesn't surprise me though, because he just changed teams.
Yep.
All these guys changing new teams and signing new contracts are getting much smaller numbers. That's actually, I sort of cheated in that there was talk. I think Dave Moody's show was talking about it the other day that, you know, a lot of these guys, as soon as when everything started to go down and whatever, when the contract started dropping, went and renegotiated the contracts. And he mentioned both Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin as rushing and renegotiating those contracts so they could get those big numbers before those went away. So
and the common thing between Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, and Jimmy Johnson, they all have season-long sponsorships on their cars. They're FedEx, M&M's, Mars, and Ally.
Yep.
Alley or whatever the heck it's called. It's not Lowe's anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kevin Harvick, you know, he's got some big partners with Anheuser-Busch too. So.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting to see. I was actually reading the 2009 article that featured Dale Jr. as the top earner, and it was talking about all the same things we talk about all the time. TV ratings are down, fan attendance is down. I was like, man, we've been dealing with this for 10 years or longer now.
Yeah.
But we're still here. Drivers are still making good money. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's just a little different. But
NASCAR is in no danger of going away anytime soon.
No,
and
it just
I do feel like, and the image that I get from everything and being around it, I think it's leveling off now.
Yeah, I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, I think.
One of the guys on this list, I just thought of this. Clint Boyer, number 10 on the list. We were just talking about who Cole Custer could replace. I mean, that's a much cheaper option.
Yep.
being the 10th highest, paid driver in
Don't you
NASCAR.
think Rick Hendrick's kind of like, Jimmy, don't you think
What?
like you gotta be? I mean, gotta want to spend some time with your kids, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jimmy's locked in for he's got a 2-season deal here. He's in, so he's got a little ways to go yet. So he's good. Jimmy's locked in.
He's got
And
another championship in him.
He's
He's got one more in him.
He might.
I would love to see him get number 8. I'd love to see it, especially now that he and I are pals.
Yeah, you guys are buddies, and him and I might go running at some point together.
Right, there you go.
It's gonna come full circle for us.
Gotta get back to the track, man. Never gonna happen unless you get back to the track.
Well, he's been biking a lot more lately, so that's where we have our disconnect. I don't do the biking as much.
So speaking of leveling out, getting people back into our sport, Ty Dillon has been very vocal over the last few weeks about ideas to bring younger people into the sport and keep people into the sport. I've got a ton of audio from him. I'm hoping to release a special episode later this week with a bunch of the audio that I picked up this weekend. On the superspeedway.com, there's a link in the show notes to an article that I wrote with a lot of his comments in it from Saturday in the media center. But I wanted to play a little clip here, and now I don't even remember specifically what the clip has to. Oh, the clip has to do with his idea on how to make the races a little bit more exciting to get people to tune in a little bit more. So here's what Ty had to say.
Yeah, I think this package has done one of two things, and 6 one way, half dozen the other. Is restarts are amazing. They're great to watch, and when we provide that at an indoor race, we're having some of the best races that NASCAR's seen. And then on the other hand, we're having less cautions. People aren't spinning these cars out. So maybe we need to have talks of having a third stage implemented, or we have 3 stages. Maybe a 4th stage would be the correct way. Where every weekend we have a 15 to go, we have a caution, and maybe you pay extra points to win the 3rd stage or something. But look at something as far as adding a 4th stage where there's going to be a 15-lap shootout or 20-lap shootout. Pay double points to the 3rd stage, and then or however you want to do it. We can look at different things so that you're not feeling like the guy who had a car that was dominant all day is losing points due to a 3rd stage. Maybe boost that 3rd stage's points and minimize the 4th stage's points, or just add bonus points for the 4th stage of the final race. But there's something there that we can do. We need another caution at the end of these races, like you said, to at least 15 to go to get us every single week. We're going to have that crazy action.
Would you suggest that, or would you not? I mean, would you go?
Yeah. I will. Yeah, I'll say it right now. So whatever I tell you guys, I'm not afraid to say to them, and it's just a matter of me getting time with them, and if they actually listen. So, and I respect them, and I know everything that they're doing is very tough, and I don't know all the behind the scenes, but I do want to help.
So Ty talked a couple of weeks ago at Pocono, I believe it was, about some of the things he'd like to see about adding a Top Golf to the track and all this stuff to get the young guys interested in it, the young fans. NASCAR worked with him at Sonoma, and they put a 360 cam in the car. He has an idea of having a live stream camera from each car that the teams can put on their Twitter feed or wherever they want to do through a sponsor. And he suggested adding a caution lap during the stage breaks to allow the drivers to interact with that camera, with that feed on social media, and then maybe people can ask them questions, things like that. It's interesting. A lot of people are talking about it. Whether it's something that would work or not, I don't know. But James, what do you think? Caution with 15 laps to go? What do you think?
He's got ideas. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I hate it. I'm like right on the middle, but if you go to your local short track every week, I mean, how long is the A main, right? Yeah. It's 20 laps, 15 laps.
So here's my idea. I'm gonna piggyback on Ty, and I'm gonna give you my idea. Ty, if you're listening, you can take this and run with it. So I like the idea of 20 laps to go, 15 laps to go, have a restart. But people are gonna scream. The traditionalists are gonna scream. We can't do that. Okay, so here's what we do. We run the race as is. We get our winner. Whoever wins the race at the end that's your winner of the race. But the World of Outlaws, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to do a Dash for Cash where they take the top 6 fastest cars and run them for, a 10-lap shootout or a 4-lap shootout or whatever before the mains. I say you take then the top 10 cars that are left running, give them a shootout, 15-lap shootout, let them race for a big chunk of cash, maybe some bonus points. There you go. Done.
There you go.
I like it.
I like it too.
A little bit more excitement at the end. The fans stick around after the race instead of leaving as soon as the burnout starts. They're going to want to watch that shootout. You keep the fans in the seats, keep people tuned in, and there you go. And while they're getting lined up for that, you can have some of the interviews at the back in the pack people on pit road. I think it's great. I like Ty's idea. I am afraid of ruining the integrity of the sport, and I think that solves that problem because you still have your winner of the race.
Yeah, we're pushing the integrity line further and further with a lot of stuff that we've been doing.
But he had a point too.
He's got good ideas.
Well, Dustin Long talked about the fact that that's like taking a football team and saying with a 2-minute warning both teams are even, and now you got to battle it out for the last 2 minutes. And Ty says you can't compare us to stick and ball sports. We're not a stick and ball sports. There are gimmicks throughout all of auto racing. Go to your local short track. There's gimmicks.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
Stop comparing us to the NFL and the NBA and the NHL. That is not what we are. We are auto racing. It is different.
What are some of the most popular forms of auto racing? Figure eights and demolition derbies, right?
Exactly.
That's a huge.
So go with Tony Stewart's idea. We run half the race one direction, you run half the race the other direction, and then 10 to go, you split the field and run them both ways.
You crisscross them, yeah.
Yep. There we go. There we go. I need to add that clip to our soundboard.
Yeah, we fixed NASCAR. I love it.
There you go. One more little news item real quick. Ross Chastain obviously been in the news the last couple of weeks. Now he is working towards an Xfinity Truck Series championship. Still got to make the top 20 in points to...
only got a few points to go. Yeah, he's right there now. He's
close.
He's good.
Chicago didn't quite do what he needed it to do, but got a chance to talk to him at Chicagoland before the race and asked him what his thoughts are or what's he working on for next year. Wrong one. Hold on. Let me play the right one. This is Ross Chastain.
I'm just trying to win races, just be competitive. I mean, really, I haven't had any talks on stuff. I mean, there's people I know working on it, for me and behind the scenes and stuff. But there's no talks on my end. I know winning and being competitive. Going out in the 10 car this weekend with Colleague Racing and Nutrient Ag Solutions. I know if we outperform in that, it will help. But you have to perform and you have to win to get their attention.
So there you go. Nothing in the works yet for Ross Chastain, but if he keeps winning, there's going to be options.
Yep. He started winning last year in the Xfinity Series, got himself an opportunity, and got the rug yanked out from under him. So now he's doing it again.
Yep.
And he's sticking to it, and then he's made a name for himself, man. He's well known now. I mean, everybody's looking at Ross Chastain.
Yeah, definitely. Nice, decent length article on superspeedway.com from that conversation. There's a lot more there, so check that out as well. So again, the link's in the show notes. With that, we put Chicagoland in the rearview mirror, and we go to Daytona International Speedway this weekend. It's the Coke Zero Sugar 400, the Firecracker 400, the Pepsi 400, whatever you want to call it. Daytona International Speedway. One of the interesting things, a lot of drivers got to talk about it this weekend, and a lot of them were asked about it. This is the last July 4th Daytona weekend, for the time being at least, unless the schedule gets changed again down the road. Amazing how many drivers didn't know that.
Yeah.
These guys just go where the plane takes them and have no idea where they're going next on the schedule. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah. But anyway, Daytona this weekend, James, you put in the show notes. I didn't see this until you had added it, that they've changed up the stage length a little bit.
Yeah, just announced it today. So instead of going 40-40, what was it, 40-40-80?
Yeah, I think so.
They're going 50-50-60 for the race this week.
Yeah.
So that should be interesting.
I like it.
They're trying to avoid any fuel mileage crap.
Yeah,
that's basically that's the thing. And I think they're also bringing new tires. They haven't run these tires at Daytona. Just a little nugget there that they're also kind of working on.
There you go.
But yeah, again, look a little different on the stages, but I like that. I don't want to see any fuel game gimmicks at my it's not restricted plate racing anymore.
Right.
My super speedways. I got to put a buck in the jar for that one.
You do. Got to talk to a couple drivers in the media center about Daytona. First one I talked to, obviously, was one of the guys who's done pretty well there in the past, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Is Daytona still a big target on the schedule for you now?
Well, yeah, I don't know why it would be. For us, I think, there's tracks this year that we've ran better than we have in the past, and so I feel like all the mile and a halves are tracks that we can, look at it gaining a lot of points as well. Obviously, getting a win would be big at any racetrack, but I feel like we have definitely a better shot at Daytona and Bristol out of the ones that are left. But we've been gaining points on mile and a halves as well. So we're looking this weekend at Chicago. Hopefully we can run similar to what we have at Kansas and Charlotte and Vegas and even Atlanta. So I think we got a lot of good racetracks in front of us.
Stenhouse, for the record, finished 12th at Chicagoland. Also got a chance to ask Chris Buescher about Daytona. Speaking of Daytona, you had 2 fifth-place finishes there last season. You're going in there with a different package next weekend than we've had before there. What are your expectations there next weekend?
I'd say pretty similar. The package really at Talladega did not change a whole lot of what is restrictor plate racing. So, I thought that your pack racing was the same. Some of your runs were a little bit different, but Daytona is also a lot tighter than Talladega. So, I don't think it's something that's going to throw a big curve into that race for us. I think it'll be something pretty similar, and we have some good notes to go off of and some good baseline stuff and some more strategy to look at and try and figure out how to not let what happened at the 500 happen in this one. But we go out there and we got a very good chance to go get another top 5 finish out of it.
Is that a race that you circle on your calendar as one that's the potential to maybe sneak in there and get something done?
No, not for me. I look at Bristol as that opportunity that we can go there and pretty consistently get to the top 5 and be able to pull something off there and just gotta have everything go right at the end and be mistake free at that point. But Daytona and Talladega, they're there's that opportunity there, but it's not something that I circle at. I mean, it's more or less something that you go into and keep a good attitude about it. Hope that you can get through all of the chaos that happens and not get caught up in a mistake of your own or a mistake of someone else is doing. And to me, there's so much luck that goes into those races, and there's a definite skill to it. And there are drivers that definitely figure out how to be way above the rest of the field doing it. But for me, there's still just so much luck involved that it's a place that I don't get too excited about, I guess you could say. Try and go there and be positive about it and go have a good time. But at the end of the day, you got to have a lot of things happen the right way to be able to come out with a good finish.
I think, Chris Buescher touched on it, and a lot of drivers have touched on it. I don't think we're going to see a real big different Daytona than what we saw in February. I think we're going to see something really similar to what we've seen before. I think it's going to be wild, for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
With that, James, you get the first pick, unless you screwed that up in the notes, too.
No, I did not screw that up in the notes. I got that right. With the first pick on these big tracks, who I usually like to go with. But I think we've got a handful of guys that you can go with. So I will go Joey Logano. Okay. I think I'm going to take him to win Daytona.
Joey Logano's a good one.
I can't believe I didn't pick Brad Keselowski. He's usually my bread and butter on these bad boys, but I'll leave him up there. He's on the board.
I'm not picking Brad either. I am going to go. I'm going to just throw it out there. I'm going Jimmy Johnson.
Woo! Yeah, he did win. He did win the shootout.
Yep, won the shootout. He's got some momentum. He wants to win again. I say Jimmer. The Jimmer gets it done.
Mm-hmm.
Dark horse. I'm going to go purely on average finish, which is a complete crapshoot because he's only one race there. But I'm going Ryan Preece as my dark horse pick.
You SOB.
Were you going to take him?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he really good at Talladega the first time we ran with the new package on the track. So I'm gonna go Daniel Hemrick then for my pick. So he also ran very well Another guy maybe we could always talk about is De Benedetto. He ran really good at the Daytona 500.
Bubba Wallace is another good pick for a dark
Is Brendan
horse.
gone? Is Brendan gone running?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
He's always a good dark horse at the big tracks. He seems to figure out how to get top 10s there.
Yeah. If Mike Wallace is in the race, he's a good one to pick.
Yeah. Mike Wallace could go out there and get you a top 20 every week on the big tracks.
Yeah, he could probably do it in like a street stock on super speedway tracks if he needed to. Let's see what else there's something else I was gonna mention. Speaking of these picks, Alex Bowman no longer a dark horse.
No, he's disqualified.
I think you got to disqualify him.
Yeah, he's DQ'd from all dark horsing going forward.
I'm with you too. All right, we're on the same page there. Let's hit some shout outs. James, what do you got?
It's the King's birthday, 82.
Nice.
Happy birthday, Richard Petty.
There you go.
Gotta have a shout out to the King every once in a while. There's only one of them, for God's sakes.
Right, exactly. 82 years, man.
Yeah.
I wish I could have been around for Richard Petty's heyday. I mean, my memory of Richard Petty is him running around in the back of the pack with the towel hanging out of his mouth.
Yep.
I'd love to have been a part of when he was winning races. It's kind of a bummer that I wasn't. Still very much respect that history, but I wish I had that view of Richard. Like I wish a lot of the younger people had that view of Darrell Waltrip when Darrell Waltrip was in his prime.
Yep.
That's Jeff Gordon even. I mean, there's a lot of guys that watch Jeff Gordon run around toward the back of the pack, even though he did get a win in his last season.
Yep. Yeah, we were, unfortunately, Dale Earnhardt's, career got cut short. We never really got to see him struggle that much. He had a little bit of a bump there at the end, and we're seeing Jimmy Johnson fight that right now.
Right.
It's a much different world now than it was back then. But yeah, man, the 200 wins never going to be broken.
Nope.
The King. I mean, Ryan McGee had a great Twitter post today. A couple years ago, he wrote about the 80 things he loves about Richard Petty.
Okay.
On his 80th birthday, so that's kind of a good read if you go to Ryan McGee's Twitter. It's good. Yeah.
Cool.
So there you go.
A couple shout outs from me from the Chicago weekend. And of course, wanted to shout out Steve from Barron Speedway. Got a chance to sit down with him, talk to him for about 15 minutes on Saturday. I think Saturday, Friday. I don't know. One of those days I talked to him. So we'll have that interview. I'm thinking it'll be next week. Probably going to have a special episode this week and next week. I've got a lot of audio to sift through. I'm going to try and work on it this tomorrow and or 4th of July and get it up for you guys on Friday, Thursday or Friday if I can. So watch for that. There'll be tons of audio from Chicagoland. A little bit of the stuff you already heard here, but I'm going to try and just pick mostly new stuff. I concentrate a lot on the stuff today of questions that I asked, but I've got a lot of audio from questions that other people asked. I find it interesting, so I assume you guys will as well. It's stuff that you don't always hear. It's not in all the articles, and so it's worth playing for you guys. The other shout out I have, met up with Brandon Crowd from the Lap Traffic podcast. I've been listening to his podcast off and on over the past couple years. He's kind of in the same boat as I am, doing this as a hobby. I think he's a little bit farther along than we are. I think he's a little better at marketing himself and the podcast and all that. But very cool to meet up with him. Got to chat with him quite a bit this weekend. Got to watch Clint Boyer make fun of him. Maybe I'll add that to the special podcast this week. Anyway, back to Barron Speedway. That will be hopefully next week. Will be the special podcast next week with him. So
yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was really interesting. And if you follow his Instagram, Barron Speedway, BEHREND Speedway on Instagram, he's still adding to the track. He put some grooves down. He's got scuff marks on the wall from the tires I saw today. Pretty cool. So check that out. But again, Brandon, really nice to meet up with him. It was fun. He'll be back at Michigan in August. So he's from Michigan. So hopefully meet up with him down there and chat with him a little bit. Maybe we'll get him on the podcast too. So I think that's it, James. Oh, Fantasy League. Should we just skip that?
I mean, we probably should just not do it anymore.
I'm going to let you in on my strategy because it isn't working. So here's my strategy for the last 3 weeks, what I've done. I have gone on racingreference.info, and they have a fantasy tool that you can click on. And I have gone with that and selected the track that they're running at. And I have literally picked the top 6 guys or 5 guys, or however many we have to pick, on their list every week. And the first week at Michigan, I killed it. It worked great. But since then, it sucked. So I'm not doing that anymore. But that's how that's my system, my top secret system that doesn't work. So don't do that, guys.
it was exciting while you had the chance.
Yeah, I got 1 week. It's like, oh man, this is great. I should do this every week. Yeah, it didn't work.
It did work.
Do you have it in front of you? Because I already cleared it off.
Yep,
here.
I'll do it really quick. Freight Train 1, Ranger Runyon, Justin 713, Scoters, and then me and you, man.
Yeah.
5th and 6th, right at the bottom. Hurricane Dicka was last.
Stupid.
And then
whose dumb idea was this fantasy league crap?
It's.
I think this year wasn't it Todd's fault this year that we did it?
Yeah, Todd was pushing on it this year.
Yeah, last year I said we weren't doing it again, and then Todd was pushing on it, and James listened to my complaining and decided to do it through NASCAR. And I don't know, I still like the NASCAR one better, I think, but I still suck at it.
We suck.
Yeah.
I mean, every week
you at least are good usually on fantasy, but I'm always terrible.
Yeah, I'm having a bad year. I don't know what's going on.
Why I quit fantasy football, because I was even worse. At least I know about NASCAR.
Yeah, I don't know. It's every week we come on here and we're disgusted with ourselves, and it's just frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, why are we depressing ourselves every week by sucking?
I don't know why we do it. It's the same way I feel about social media. I don't know why I even do it, because it just makes me angry. It's like golf, what the hell?
Well, I tell you what, I have 2 social media accounts. I have my NASCAR one, and then I have my one that I have like my news and hockey stuff and everything on it. And I discovered this weekend, because I didn't touch the other one, I just was on the NASCAR one all weekend, that I like my NASCAR feed a whole lot better, because I wasn't frustrated. I mean, I did get, like I said, a couple Twitter arguments with people over the package, but otherwise it was pretty good. Well, might stick out on that one a little bit more than the normal one.
I've been trying social media blackouts every so often, because I don't know why. I don't know why I need to get so angry. And fantasy racing is right there, man. It's starting to trickle in, making me mad.
Well, great. Since you're doing a social media blackout, James, where can people find you on Twitter to not see your posts?
I am at James Cush on Twitter. I am there still.
You can find me at T Super Speedway. I'm hoping to be around a TV somewhere where I can tweet during the 600 this week, or the 400 this weekend, whatever races this weekend. Obviously, I will be back at Kentucky Speedway the following weekend, so I will be tweeting like crazy during the truck race, Xfinity race, and Cup race. Truck race might be a little less, because it's possible my family might come to the race, so I might go down and visit them a little bit, which will take me off Twitter some. But otherwise, I'll be tweeting like crazy from there. You can find the podcast on facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. Our website address is thesuperspeedway.com. Guys, give it some love. Share some articles out. Check it out. I put a bunch of effort into writing some articles this weekend. It's good to see people are reading them. So click on those, read them, share them around to your friends. I think there's some good stuff in there. You can find the podcast on there as well. Our show notes are on there. You can click on the links to all the articles we discussed on the podcast today and all the others. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud, wherever you found us today. We hope that you subscribe and continue to listen. If you like the show and you want to become a part of it, you want to help us out, visit patreon.com/thesuperspeedway and become a patron. All right, James, about an hour and a half. Anything we missed?
If we can get it all in an hour and a half, we're never going to be able to get it all in. So
it was a fun weekend at Chicagoland Speedway. Thanks for everybody who followed along. Those of you who followed along on Twitter, it's a lot of fun. Love the interaction. Feel free to tweet me, ask me questions, anything. Hey, you know what? We've got a lot of opportunities to talk to the drivers at the track now. I'll be at Kentucky. If you got stuff you want to know, send me some questions on Twitter. I'll try and hit those drivers up and ask them the questions. We'll have it on the podcast. So always looking for some help on that. It's really easy to come up with questions until they're standing in front of you, and then you can't think of anything, and then you look stupid. So I try not to do that. That's my goal, is to not look stupid. So with that, Daytona International Speedway this weekend, the Coke Zero Sugar 400. We go back to Kentucky the week after that. We'll be back next week to talk about Daytona. Again, hopefully later this week, there'll be a podcast with a bunch of audio from Chicagoland, a little bit more of an in-depth update from Chicagoland. And then, like I said, next week we'll talk about Daytona. We'll preview Kentucky. Until then, everybody, let's go racing.